Driving a cab in Las Vegas, you think you've seen it all. The bright lights, the endless stream of tourists chasing dreams and dodging nightmares, it's all part of the city's pulsing heartbeat. I've driven these streets for years, ferrying souls from one end of the strip to the other, each with a story, each with a destination. But there's one ride I'll never forget, a journey into darkness that started with a simple fare and ended in a fight for survival. It was a typical Friday night, the city ablaze with neon promises, when I picked them up, a couple staggering out of one of the lesser-known casinos, their laughter spilling into the night. She was dressed to the nines, a glittering dress clinging to her like a second skin, while he was more casually attired, a stark contrast to the opulence around them. They slumped into the back seat, still caught in the throes of intoxication, their words slurring as they directed me to a hotel off the beaten path, a place that catered more to locals than tourists. It was a routine fare, or so I thought. As we drove, his demeanor changed. What started as playful banter turned sour, his words laced with venom as he berated her, his anger a palpable force in the confined space of the cab. She tried to laugh it off, to calm him, but it only seemed to fuel his rage. I kept my eyes on the road, the tension in the back seat a storm I hoped to outdrive. But then, in a moment of terrifying clarity, I saw it in the rearview mirror, a glint of metal in his hand, a gun pointed at her head. "Change of plans," he hissed, his voice cold and steady. "You're going to take us somewhere else." Fear gripped me, a vice around my heart as I realized the gravity of the situation. I was no longer just a cab driver, I was a hostage, a pawn in whatever twisted game he was playing. He directed me to the outskirts of the city, to a place where the lights of Vegas were nothing but a distant memory, the desert stretching out before us, endless and unforgiving. All the while, she pleaded with him, her words a desperate litany of apologies and promises, but he was unmoved, his focus singular and terrifying. The place he chose was abandoned, a dilapidated building that seemed to sag under the weight of its own desolation. "Stop here," he commanded, the gun still trained on her. My hands trembled on the wheel, sweat beating on my forehead as I complied, the engine's idle purr a stark contrast to the rapid beat of my heart. What happened next unfolded with a surreal quality, as if I were watching it through a haze. He dragged her out of the cab, her cries a haunting melody in the silent night. I should have driven away, should have saved myself, but I couldn't leave her, couldn't abandon her to whatever fate he had in mind. I followed them, my steps uncertain, my mind racing with possibilities and fear. Inside, the building was a maze of corridors, the air thick with the scent of decay and the echoes of forgotten lives. I found them in what looked like an old warehouse space, her on her knees, him standing over her, a statue of wrath. His back was to me, his attention wholly on her, and in that moment, I acted. I charged, my body moving with a desperation born of fear and adrenaline. We collided, a tangle of limbs and shouts, the gun going off with a deafening roar. The bullet missed its mark, embedding itself in the wall, a stark testament to our struggle. We fought, his strength fueled by madness, mine by the primal need to survive, to protect. It ended with him on the ground, unconscious or worse, I couldn't tell. My breath came in ragged gasps, my body aching from the confrontation, but alive, we were both alive. She was beside me then, her tears a flood of relief and terror, her hands shaking as she thanked me. The sound of sirens in the distance was a symphony of salvation, the flashing lights a beacon in the darkness. The police took our statements, their faces grim as they pieced together the events of the night. He was wanted, they said, a fugitive with a history of violence that stretched back years, a predator who had finally been caught. I drove back to the strip as dawn painted the sky in hues of gold and pink, the city waking from its nocturnal revelry, oblivious to the shadows that danced at its edges. The ride had changed me, stripped away the veneer of indifference I had worn like armor. I had stared into the abyss, fought against the darkness, and emerged on the other side, but not unscathed. The tale of that night spread, a cautionary story whispered among the cab drivers of Vegas, a reminder of the dangers that lurk in the heart of the city. And me? I still drive these streets, my eyes always watching, always wary, knowing that behind the glitter and glam, there are monsters waiting, there are hunger hidden behind friendly smiles and drunken laughter. But I also know there is courage, a strength that can rise in the face of fear, a light that can pierce the darkness. I carry that knowledge like a shield, a protection against the night and its terrors, a survivor of the ride that turned into a nightmare, a driver who faced the darkness and lived to tell the tale. Las Vegas, the city of sin, where the night promises all manner of debauchery and excess, a perfect backdrop for a bachelorette party, or so we thought. It was supposed to be a weekend of uninhibited fun, a celebration of my best friend Lisa's last days of singlehood. Our group, 5 college friends reunited, plunged into the neon-lit embrace of the Strip with the kind of reckless abandon only the young and free can muster. Our night began in a haze of cocktails and laughter, each club and casino blurring into the next as we surrendered to the city's pulsing rhythm. It was in one such club, a place that pulsed with the beat of 100 hearts, where our night took a sinister turn. They seemed to materialize out of the smoke and strobe lights, a group of men who matched our own intoxication with a predatory charm. Handsome, charismatic, and all too willing to shower us with attention and drinks, they seemed like just another part of the Vegas fantasy we had been living since we arrived. But there was something off about them, a shadow in their smiles that I couldn't quite place in my alcohol-addled mind. My concerns were drowned out by the music and the assurances of my friends, particularly Jenna, whose flirtation with one of the men, Mark, bordered on the obsessive. The night spiraled from there, our laughter echoing down the Strip as we moved from club to club, our new companions always by our side. It wasn't until we found ourselves outside, the chill of the early morning air sobering, that we noticed Jenna was missing. Panic set in, a stark contrast to the carefree euphoria of just hours before. We searched, calling her name into the emptiness, but there was no sign of her, no trace of where she might have gone. The men, too, had vanished, their earlier attentiveness replaced by the cold reality of our friend's disappearance. The police were indifferent, their responses rehearsed, a testament to the countless similar tales that no doubt unfolded in the city every night. We were on our own, our celebration turned into a desperate search for our missing friend. It was a phone call that led us to the sewers, a distorted voice on the other end promising Jenna's return in exchange for our silence. We had no choice but to comply, our fear for Jenna overshadowing any sense of rationality. The sewers were a labyrinth of darkness and decay, the stench of the city's underbelly a physical assault. We stumbled through the tunnels, guided by the faint light of our phones, until we found them, the group of men from the club, their handsome faces twisted into grotesque masks of amusement. And Jenna, bound and gagged, the terror in her eyes a silent plea for help. It was a trap, a game to them, their intentions clear in the way they circled us, predators toying with their prey. The fight that ensued was brutal, a struggle of desperation against malice. I fought with a ferocity I didn't know I possessed, fueled by the adrenaline of fear and the instinct to protect my friends. It was Lisa, her small frame belying the strength within, who found an opening, her kick sending Mark sprawling to the ground, the keys to Jenna's restraints falling from his pocket. We freed Jenna, her sobs echoing in the damp confines of the sewer as we retraced our steps, the men's curses a chilling reminder of how close we had come to a fate too dark to contemplate. The night air never felt so sweet as when we emerged from the sewers, the city's neon glow a beacon of safety. We didn't stop running until we reached our hotel, our sanctuary from the horrors we had escaped. The aftermath was a blur of police statements and flights home, our bachelorette party a shattered memory we all struggled to process. Jenna didn't speak of what happened, the trauma a shadow that lingered in her eyes, a constant reminder of the darkness we had encountered. Las Vegas, for all its glittering allure, held a darkness that went beyond the vice and excess of the Strip. We had glimpsed something primal, a malevolence that thrived in the unseen corners of the city, preying on those caught in its web of neon lies. I returned home, but the nightmares followed, a vivid tapestry of fear and violence that replayed night after night. The city of sin had revealed its true face to us, a visage of horror that no amount of lights could mask. Our friendship, once defined by carefree laughter and shared dreams, was now a bond forged in survival, a pact born of the night we faced the darkest depths of human depravity and emerged, battered but alive. Las Vegas remained, its lights a distant beacon, a reminder of the night when a bachelorette party turned into a fight for our lives, a tale too terrifying to be anything but real. Neon lights and ceaseless energy was supposed to be the backdrop of our perfect honeymoon. Sarah and I had planned it for months, a week of bliss to begin our married life. But instead of joy, our honeymoon became a nightmare I can't wake up from. Our argument was foolish, a meaningless squabble blown out of proportion, but it ended with Sarah storming out of our hotel room. The slamming door echoed in my heart, a premonition of the horror to come. Alone, I paced the room, a mixture of anger and worry churning inside me. Sarah was strong-willed and impulsive, traits I adored and feared in equal measure. When hours passed with no sign of her, the worry overcame my anger. I decided to search for her, starting with the casino downstairs, where I hoped she had gone to cool off. The casino was a cacophony of sounds and lights, a maze of slot machines and card tables. I searched for Sarah, scanning the faces of the crowd, but she was nowhere to be seen. Panic set in, my heart racing as I realized something was terribly wrong. I learned from a bartender that a man had been buying her drinks, charming at first glance but with a darkness lurking behind his eyes. Sarah, despite her anger, would never have left with a stranger unless under duress. My fear deepened, a cold shadow stretching across my heart. Desperate, I scoured the casino, questioning staff and security, but no one could tell me where she had gone. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, swallowed by the neon-lit night. Hours turned into days, and still, there was no sign of Sarah. I reported her missing to the police, but they were swamped with the endless tide of incidents a city like Las Vegas attracts. To them, Sarah was just another face in a sea of people who come to this city to lose themselves. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't do anything but search for her, my mind replaying our last moments over and over. Guilt consumed me, each passing second a weight pressing down, a voice whispering that this was all my fault. Then, 3 days after she disappeared, I received a call. A voice, cold and devoid of emotion, directed me to an abandoned building on the outskirts of the city. The police, when I told them, insisted on handling it, but I couldn't wait. I couldn't risk Sarah's life on procedures and paperwork. The building was a husk, a forgotten relic of a bygone era. Inside, the air was thick with dust and decay, the silence a tangible presence. I called out for Sarah, my voice echoing off the walls, but there was no answer. Only the sound of my footsteps and the pounding of my heart broke the oppressive silence. And then I heard it, a soft whimpering from the depths of the building. I followed the sound, every step an eternity, until I found her. Sarah was there, bound and gagged, her eyes wide with fear and relief. She was alive, but the horror wasn't over. The man from the casino emerged from the shadows, his smile a twisted grimace. He spoke of a game, a twisted hunt where he was the predator, and we were the prey. He had watched us from the moment we arrived in Vegas, seen the fight that drove Sarah into his path. He wanted to play one final game, he said, with Sarah's life in the balance. The rules were simple. I had to find the key to her chains hidden somewhere in the building before time ran out. The game was sick, a torment that stretched my sanity to its limits. I searched frantically, tearing through the detritus of the building, my mind a whirlwind of fear and desperation. Time was a relentless enemy, each tick of the clock a hammer blow. In the end, I found the key, not by wit or speed, but by sheer, dumb luck. I freed Sarah, and we fled that place of nightmares, the man's laughter chasing us into the night. We were safe, but something fundamental had changed. The city of lights had become a city of shadows, its clamor a facade hiding unimaginable darkness. We left Las Vegas behind, but the scars of those days remain, a constant reminder of the evil that lurks in the heart of man. Sarah and I are still together, bound by the ordeal we survived. But the joy of our early days has been tarnished, replaced by a vigilance, a wariness of the darkness that lies just beyond the light. Our honeymoon in Las Vegas was supposed to be the beginning of our life together, but instead, it became a tale of survival, a horror story that we will carry with us forever.